This is a story about a total accident, a failed experiment that didn't just create a new color, but actually ended up changing modern medicine forever.
So let's just dive right in. How on earth did a teenager's failed experiment completely change the world? To figure that out, we gotta go back in time.
Because this whole story, it doesn't start with some brilliant eureka moment. Nope, it begins with a mess, a really unexpected, sticky, dark sludge in a makeshift lab on the top floor of a house.
All right, picture this. We're in London. The year is 1856. There's an 18-year-old chemistry student working away in his home lab during his school break, and he has absolutely no idea he's about to make history. His name was William Henry Perkin. And get this, at just 18, he was already so good that he was the youngest assistant to August Wilhelm Hofmann, one of the biggest names in chemistry in Germany. This kid was definitely going places.
So you might be wondering, what was this young genius even trying to do in his attic lab? He wasn't just messing around. He was trying to tackle one of the biggest medical challenges of the entire era, malaria.
See, back then, the only thing that worked against malaria was quinine, and you could only get it from the bark of this one specific tree in South America. The problem was, the supply was super limited, totally unreliable, and just crazy expensive. So the big goal, the holy grail, was to create a synthetic version in a lab, something cheap and plentiful that could be a cure for everybody, not just the wealthy.
Perkin had this really clever idea to try and make quinine from aniline, which was basically a cheap, gunky waste product from coal tar. He ran his experiments, but they did not go as planned, not at all.
So instead of that clear, life-saving chemical he was looking for, he just got that thick, dark sludge we mentioned. A complete failure. But this is where Perkin was different. Most people would have just thrown it away and started over, but his curiosity got the better of him. He decided to investigate it, and when he tried washing out his beaker with alcohol, something amazing happened. A deep, stunningly beautiful purple solution appeared.
You know, it really reminds you of that famous quote from the scientist Louis Pasteur, "Chance favors only the prepared mind." Perkin's mind was absolutely prepared. His training, his curiosity, it all allowed him to see the incredible potential that was hiding inside a total accident. Now you have to understand, before this moment, the world of color was just different. All dyes came from nature, from plants, from insects, even from snail mucus. They were usually kind of muddy, they faded really fast, and the really good ones were so expensive only royalty could get their hands on them. Perkin had just invented the world's first synthetic dye, a color that was bold, that was permanent, and that was cheap to make.
And what Perkin did next is, to me, one of the most interesting parts of the story. He didn't just go write a scientific paper. At 18 years old, he immediately saw the business opportunity here.
And the guy moved at lightning speed. In 1856, he discovers the dye and immediately files a patent. His mentor was totally against it, wanted him to stick to pure research. But Perkin drops out of college, he gets his dad and brother to invest, and just 1 year later, he opens the world's first factory for synthetic dye.
He first called his invention Tyrian purple, after that legendary ancient dye. But the world would soon come to know it by a much more fashionable French name, Mauve.
And let me tell you, this new color did not stay in the factory. It exploded into a global phenomenon. It was basically the world's first fashion trend driven by chemistry, and it all happened thanks to a little help from some very, very influential people.
It all started when Empress Eugenie of France, who was a huge trendsetter, decided she loved the color. Well, that was it. Suddenly, every fashionable woman in Paris had to have it. Then, England's own Queen Victoria wore a mauve gown, and the craze just went international. For the very first time, ordinary people could afford a vibrant, royal-looking color that wouldn't fade away.
So the story could totally end right there, right? A teenager gets famous and rich from a fashion craze. But the really crucial part of Perkin's legacy goes so much deeper than that. And in a wild twist of fate, it's circled all the way back to medicine. You see, scientists realized that these powerful new dyes could do more than just color fabric. They could be used to stain cells and bacteria, making microbes that had been invisible forever suddenly visible under a microscope. For the first time, researchers could actually see the germs that caused horrible diseases like tuberculosis, cholera, and anthrax. It absolutely revolutionized medical science. And it is just incredible when you stop and think about it. This entire journey, from fashion to medicine, it all kicked off with one young guy in his home lab trying and failing to cure malaria.
And here's the beautiful, unpredictable way science works. Today, artificial dyes, the direct descendants of Perkin's accident, are essential tools in medical research. And that includes, you guessed it, the modern-day search for a vaccine against the very disease he set out to conquer all those years ago.
So it kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? If a forgotten pot of useless, dark sludge could lead to a global fashion trend and a revolution in medical science, it just makes you wonder, what incredible potential is hiding in the experiments that aren't going according to plan today?